Here we are, folks, week 4, our final recorded session. And I'd like to start off by talking a little bit about the objectives for this week. So the first thing that I want to do is point out that objectives include looking critically at your brochure design. And it's suggesting that you use the CRAP principle. Some of you might know what the CRAP principle is. Some of you might not. So let me start off by saying that I left for you in our announcements a link to the page that I'm about to take you to that you can go in and examine some of the sites that come up for the CRAP principle. So let me quickly jump over to my browser. And right here is the link. You'll find that in your announcements. And again, CRAP design principle. So what I did was I just clicked on the very first one. There's many of them in here. And I am sure you're going to find that most of them will say pretty much the same thing, but they might say it in different ways. So you might want to spend a little bit of time looking at different ones just to get some different impressions of what CRAP really means. CRAP is essentially contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. So let me click on the page that I have open here and we'll take a look at this one. All right, the big 4: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. These 4 principles are not all there is to know about graphic design, but understanding these simple related concepts and applying them to design can make for more satisfying and effective designs. So contrast simply means difference. And for whatever reason, perhaps our brains think they're still back in the savannah scanning for wild predators. We are all wired to notice differences. We're not conscious of it, some more than others probably, but we are scanning and looking for similarities and differences all the time. Contrast is what we notice, and it is what gives a design its energy. So the thinking here will be that as you work with this, you think in terms of contrast. Think in terms of creating elements and control the contrast. Understand that you look for contrast and understand that your customer or your client is going to look for you to come up with designs that utilize contrast. Contrast is one of the most powerful design concepts of them all because really any design element can be contrasted with another. You achieve contrast in many ways. For example, through the manipulation of space, near and far, empty or filled, through color choices, light and dark. See, this is actually a very good page because it gives you very specific criteria for contrast. Through color choices, light, dark, cool, warm. By text selection, serif and sans serif, narrow or bold. By positioning of elements, top to bottom, isolated or within groups, and so on. Making use of contrast can help you create a design which one item is clearly dominant. This helps the viewer get the point of your design quickly. Every good design has a strong and clear focal point. Having a clear contrast among elements, one being clearly dominant, helps. Of all items in design are equal or similar weight with weak contrast and with nothing being clearly dominant, it's difficult for the viewer to know where to begin. Designs with strong contrast attract interest and help the viewer make sense of the visual. Weak contrast is not only boring, it can be confusing. Every single element of a design is a line, shape, color, texture, size, space, type, and so on. It can be manipulated to create contrast. In the next pages are some slides that make good use of contrast. So, there are obviously images here. I'm going to move on to repetition. Again, go in and take a look at this. There's many others. Repetition. The principle of repetition simply means the reusing of similar or the same elements throughout your design. Repetition of certain design elements in an image is among gives some sort of clear sense of unity, consistency, and cohesiveness. Where contrast is about showing differences, repetition is subtly using elements to make sure the design is viewed as being part of a larger whole. If you use stock templates or your software application, the repetition is already built in. For example, constant background, consistent use of type across a deck of slides. However, you must be careful not to have too much repetition among your slides or images. Most of the built-in templates have been seen many times before. So essentially, repetition is something that you use and you control. All of these elements become part of your process when you create this. Even though this particular repetition is talking about slides, you're talking about, or you're actually producing a trifold brochure, which has panels. Each panel is like 6 panels. So what you're talking about in terms of repetition for something like that is how do you utilize some element or elements or some part of your production to cover across those 6 elements in terms of repetition. Maybe it's the size of the body text. Obviously, the fonts, you're going to want to use a consistent font through the entire publication. You don't want to come up using several different fonts. So it's that kind of a thing that you're looking for, using these crap terms. Alignment. The whole point of the alignment principle is you do not want things to look like they were placed randomly. Elements are connected visually. Repetition is more concerned with elements across a deck of slides. Alignment is about obtaining unity among elements of a single slide. Elements are quite far apart and a slide should have a visual connection, something that's easier to achieve with the use of grids. So again, this one is tied into slides, but the important thing is that it's one more type of thing. When you're working with alignment, think in terms of a really good example in my mind would be the use of flush left type. If you're using flush left type, it's not really a good idea to suddenly change and go flush right type or go center align type. That's a really good example of this. Now, is it possible to use center align type creatively in a trifold brochure or in something? Yeah, you can, and you can certainly mix it, but you really should know what you're doing in order to do that. And all too often, people arbitrarily work with alignment of objects and try to mix too many different alignments of objects and end up making something that kind of confuses more than it really clarifies. Proximity is about moving things closer or farther apart. So again, what you're doing is you're taking a look at some of the elements that you have within your composition, and you're thinking in terms of how do you group them, how close things are to one another, how far away they are. This isn't exactly proximity, but it does fall close to proximity. I've noticed that a number of students tend to not leave copy margins. There's a lot of times that I'll see students create a trifold brochure and they got their copy running right up to the folds. Now, it's not exactly proximity, but it's sort of proximity in that when you have body copy or any copy on a page, you have to have some sort of space between elements. Like, for instance, if you have 2 columns of copy, you want to have a margin between the 2 columns of copy. If you have folds on panels either side of your copy, you want to have some space so that your copy doesn't run right up to that fold. You want to give it a little bit of breathing air, some room. And all too often, I find people not doing that. So again, what you're doing this week, I'm going to go back to what I'm saying here. I'm not going to read all this, but I have a whole bunch of stuff in here. Maybe you want to stay away from this one because it's a little bit directed towards slides, but there's a bunch of them. I mean, you can come down here and you can see that there's many, many, many of them here. And as a matter of fact, you even have images that demonstrate the crap elements. Some of them do, some of them don't. But anyway, there's all kinds of stuff in here. Go back to this. There's all sorts of different and here's another one just very quickly. So again, I'm not going to read all this for you. I'll let you do it. I just want you to understand that I did a little bit of the work for you by going in and getting you that link so that you can come in and you can take a look at this. Some of you, as I say, probably already know what CRAP stands for. Some other instructor has given you an idea of what the CRAP principle is. But for those of you who have no idea whatsoever, it's contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. 4 of the things that you utilize as a graphic designer when you create anything for that matter. So I just want you to be aware of that, and I want you to take a look at it. This is our objective, to learn about CRAP. And in this particular case, look critically at your brochure design for these principles. See if you're employing them correctly. See if you can do a better job with them. Leads me to another point. I've noticed that quite a few students have not handed in your week 3 brochure project, and that creates a problem for you. Basically, part 1 of our assignment is to revise. I'm going to slide down a little bit to show you this. The assignment, part 1 is to revise your project, trifold from week 3, implementing all instructor feedback. Well, I tried to give feedback to everybody who submitted something. I tried to say something that you could work on critically to fix or make it better. Now, the other thing too, look critically at your brochure yourself. Be your own critique. Or give yourself your own critique. Be critical of what you do. Don't just look at it and say, well, I did it, I'm done, and that's it. Show you care for your work. Go in and take a look at it. You've got time. Make it better. I'm sure that you can make it better. As a matter of fact, I take a look at work that I do very often, much later, and try to correct things that I've done just because I care enough to do that. And that's how you should be feeling about your work. So again, if you haven't got your work in, you need to contact me, and we need to have a discussion about this, because it's going to be very difficult for you to do part 1 of this assignment if you haven't submitted your kayak trifold brochure. Again, I can't give you feedback when I don't have it to grade. And there are a number of you who have not submitted yet. So you need to be in touch with me to let me know what's going on. I'm trying to help you. I can't help you if I have nothing to grade. Submit your final trifold as a package, print-ready PDF file with native InDesign. And I am going to show you how to do that tonight. I actually showed you how to do it last week, but we're going to do that again tonight. But I want to get back up to here for 1 second. When we get into our objectives, discussing changing color from spot to process. Now, I did talk about this last week, and I showed you how to take your logo and create spot color. I also think I showed you how to create the process. But what I want to do is just make sure that I spend a few minutes going over that again for you tonight. Again, these are very important things. These are solid bits of learning that I think you should have to be able to take away from this class. So I want to go back in. I want to take a look at this process and make sure that it's absolutely clear with you. And one of the reasons that I'm going to be doing it with the logo is because we actually did change the colors from process to spot for our week 2 project. And now we're going to change them back for our trifold brochure. And then finally, prepare a document for print through packaging. So I'm going to also go through this process very completely. As a matter of fact, with regard to changing colors from spot to process and preparing the document for print, I have some really good videos that I would like to show you. The problem that I have with these videos is I'm a subscriber to lynda.com. You probably are not. So if I put those links in, you people will not be able to watch the video because you are not paid members and you will not be free to have access to them. So the only way I can actually show you those videos is for me to play those videos tonight for you. So what I'm going to do next is, before we move on to talking more about our final assignment and our assessment, is I'm going to show you the videos that I have on changing colors to process and preparing your document for print through packaging. So let me go in and let me get my document open here. Whoops, you know what, actually, they're right here. Let's come down. Here we go. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to show you, I got actually 1, 2, 3. Let's see what I'm going to do here. Yeah, I actually got 5. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos that I'm going to show you. Each one of these run approximately, oh, I don't know, 4 to 8 minutes long. And again, I hate to do this to you this way, but the bottom line is I have no other way to show you these videos, and they're actually pretty good videos, and they support my efforts to try to show you how to do this stuff. So let me start off by coming in and clicking on the submitting job, okay? And now, here we go.
When it's time to submit your job for print, the printer will tell you how they want you to supply the files. If they ask you for native files, here are some considerations. InDesign's native file format is INDD, and you need to use file package in order to gather up all the fonts and all the graphics that are used by the file. Just sending the printer the InDesign file isn't sufficient. So you want to give them all those necessary files just in case they need to make some modifications. Of course, this can end up with a large file size because InDesign files themselves are a little large. And if you have a multiple page document and has lots of images in it, that total collection could be kind of large. If you're working in Illustrator and Illustrator's AI format is your final file format, you have to keep in mind that Illustrator doesn't have a built-in collection feature as InDesign does. So that means it's up to you to remember to include any images that are linked to the Illustrator file, or if you want to, you can also embed them in the Illustrator file. I'm a fan of linking images because it's impossible to unembed images that have been embedded in an Illustrator file. And if there's a chance that an image needs to be retouched or color corrected, that's much easier if you have the linked file as a separate file. And of course, you have to remember to include any necessary fonts. In other words, everything the printer needs to recreate what you did in Illustrator. If you're using Quark Express, Quark's native file format could be either a QXD or a QXP file, depending on the version that you're using. Quark has a collect for output feature, and that will gather up all your fonts and all your placed graphics. And again, that gives the printer all the necessary files if they need to make some modifications. If your printer asks for a PDF, the wonderful thing about PDFs is that they contain all the necessary information for print. You don't have to worry about gathering up images and gathering up fonts because everything's within the PDF. And usually that's a smaller total file size than a collection of support art and fonts as you'd have with a page layout file. But there's a downside to PDFs. They're difficult to edit. Sometimes it's impossible to fix something that's wrong with a PDF, and they're unusable if they're incorrectly created. For example, if you've used low-resolution images or the file's been created the wrong size. Most printers will suggest that you submit both packaged native files and a print-ready PDF. That way, if the PDF is perfect, they're ready to go. If there are problems, then they have the original file and they can make repairs. The truth is, there's no such thing as too much to work with. I hope that during this course, you've picked up some things that are going to make you a better print.
So you can see that the reason I chose that video is she did an excellent job of summarizing this entire lesson. Everything that she talked about is what we are dealing with in this particular part of this course, getting ready to prepare artwork to send to the printer. She gave you a very clean, very logical presentation of the whole process. And I do believe that she pointed out several times that it's a good idea to have a dialogue with your printer, have a relationship with them so that you could talk to them. You can understand what it is that they would want and what they would expect from you, and make sure that when you do this, you submit it correctly. And of course, follow the instructions of the printer. Sometimes the printer would want a PDF, sometimes the printer would want a packaged document. We will go over both of them tonight. I will demonstrate both of them tonight. But again, I chose this particular video. Oh, and by the way, when I go back to the next video, I want to give some due diligence to this particular person who created these videos. because again, I think she did an absolutely excellent job on it. So the next video is packaging up the print job. So now we're going to get a little bit, we've talked about submitting, how to think about submitting, what it's all about. Now we're actually going to go into packaging the actual project. And hold on, this is, I just want to point out.
If your printer asks you to submit your job as a PDF, ideally, they should give you a PDF preset.
There. I just want to point out very briefly that this is from lynda.com, and it's Print Production Fundamentals with Claudia McHugh. And I want to point out to her, I want to point out to you that she is the person who actually created these videos. She did a tremendous job with these videos. They're exactly what you need to see when you're working on this. Okay, so let me just move this ahead now.
To use in order to create the PDF. So we're going to look at what I call the bulletproof preset in case the printer doesn't give you any kind of preset. The first thing you want to do, though, before you even commence to making a PDF is take one good last look at your document and make sure that there aren't any problems. If you've been running pre-flight, and I hope you have, look down in the lower left-hand corner, make sure you have a green light and no errors. Make sure you have bleed, that you don't have any change in text strap, no typos have crept in. Because keep in mind, when you make a PDF, you're sort of freeze drying your job to send to the printer. It's really difficult to edit PDFs. You can't count on it. That's why you want to make sure that everything's healthy at this point. First, we're going to look at making a PDF using a preset supplied by the printer. To import that preset, I go to File, Adobe PDF Presets, and Define. And here on the right, I click the Load button. And there's the preset supplied by my printer. And I choose that and click Open. And now you can see that it's added to my list of presets. Let's take a look and see how they've set this up. They've turned off some of the things that aren't pertinent for print, like optimize for fast web view, create tagged PDF. And under compression, they're letting it be downsampled to 300. That's okay. And they're using a bit of JPEG compression. Some printing companies will turn that off, but most of them will leave them at about these settings. Under marks and bleeds, oh, this is good. They've made sure that even if the designer didn't set up a bleed zone, it's still going to pick up bleed as long as there's stuff out there. And they've checked all the printer's marks. And they're having to convert to a particular destination profile, which is obviously for their press. So we're good to go. So when I click OK, and then I click Done, now I can commence to making my PDF. So we've taken a look at the preset. Now let's make the PDF. So I can just choose Adobe PDF Presets. I can choose their preset. And then it says, well, where do you want to save this? I'll put this on my desktop. And I'm not going to hide my extensions. I like to see my extensions. So this is going to be my flyer. And when I click Save, notice that it's invoked that preset because I chose it sort of on the way out the door. There are my marks and bleeds, my output settings. And if I want, I could say View PDF after exporting, but I know my job's okay. So I'm just going to click Export. If you look up here, you'll notice that there's this little vertical band. It's really easy to overlook. What that's telling us is that even though it looks like nothing's happening, InDesign is making the PDF. It's making it in the background. So now I've made my PDF, and I can send that off to the printer. But here's another scenario. If you're sending to a small print shop that doesn't supply presets to designers, or you're sending off to a publication, at any point when you're asked to submit a PDF and you say, okay, send me a preset, and they say, oh, I don't know, just make a PDF, well, then you're kind of on your own. That's not the best circumstance, but here's what you can do in that circumstance. I'm going to go to File, Adobe PDF Presets, and I'm going to use PDF X1A. I'll just call this one my X1. That's built up by a standards body, the X1A, X3, and X4. And you notice that they have dates after them. And by the way, they stand for exchange. That's what the X stands for. The reason there are different years is that as workflows have become more sophisticated, there are features that you can have in a PDF and have them be safe in a workflow as things get more modern. But if you have no idea where this little PDF is going to end up, and you want to make sure that it can be imaged in any ancient workflow, choose X1A. Notice that the compatibility seems way back, Acrobat 4. Well, that's because there's sort of an interesting thing that happened between Acrobat 4 and Acrobat 5. Acrobat 5 and above support live transparency, and older workflows that were built on PostScript don't understand transparency. Later workflows do understand it. So this, when you have no idea where you're going, ensures that any fancy transparency stuff you create, it's going to remain, but not as live transparency. It's going to get flattened out into opaque objects that older workflows can digest. We won't go deeply into what happens. Just know that InDesign does a great job of flattening out your transparency for these older workflows. As far as the compression settings, leave them as they are. But one thing that X1A doesn't check is marks and bleeds. So if you know that you need to include marks, and you want to make sure that if you have a bleed zone, you check document bleed. If you didn't make an official bleed zone, make sure that you have appropriate bleed amount in here. That's the only thing you really need to add to X1A, and then you're good to go. So when I click export, you'll notice again I have the little background task monitor. But keep this in mind in the future. Always ask the printer or the publication, whoever the recipient is, ask them how you should make the PDF. When they give you the specs, follow them. If they can't give you any specs, remember X1A, even though it seems like an ancient format, is sort of your bulletproof lowest common denominator form of PDF, and that should be easily printed no matter how old the workflow.
All right, so again,
InDesign by default.
Again, she does an excellent job of discussing the topic, and I think the one big thing that you take away from this is that, again, she mentions how important it is for you to have a dialogue with your printer, for you to have a meeting of the minds. From points within your creative process, you should be talking to the printer and trying to find out if the printer can give you some information. He is your best bet. It's almost the same thing like web design. If you're going to be building a website, at some point you're going to put that website on a remote server, and that remote server should have a technical department that can assist you in doing that. It's the same thing with this print project. The bottom line is you need somebody who's going to direct you, make sure that you submit the right thing to them. So let's move on to the next video. And the next video is print production. What is the printing process? This is a little bit generic, but I think it's interesting and I think it's helpful. Maybe I can't get it. Let me see. Has it been denying to me? Yeah, I guess so. All right, so let's see what's process color. Let's see what that is. That's the process color one. Well, let me see. Now I'm starting to have trouble with these things. Let's see if I can just get it in here. Here we go. What is process color?
Look at any magazine with color photographs. All of those colors are the result of combinations of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black inks. Those are commonly referred to as the process colors, and I'm sure you've heard the shorthand CMYK. As the inks are laid down on press, you can see the final color take shape. Different printing plants lay down the four colors in various orders, but the final result is the same. So I want to show you how the piece of paper looks as each successive color is applied. Here's just the black plate alone, and you can see the range of tones within the black plate, from shadows to highlights. Then when I add the cyan, you start to see the image take shape. Now the magenta, and now the yellow. And there's the finished four-color piece. Here's a consideration. On a printing press, you cannot print continuous tone, as you could in a photograph. You have to print little dots, and that's how the range of tones gets rendered. Here, if we look at a half-toned image, this is the way ink really hits paper. You can probably see a little bit of a pattern. And when I zoom in, you start to see all the little dots that add up to the four colors. Again, we're going to look at the individual plates. There's the black plate. Notice the angle of the lines. Notice the angle of the little rows of dots. If we look at the cyan, you'll see it's a different angle. Magenta is at 45 degrees. The yellow is at 90 degrees. Now, different printing plants use different workflows, and they may have different angles from the ones I'm showing you here, but the concept is the same. Because each color prints at a different angle, You have to make sure that there isn't a pattern, that you don't have an unpleasant moire, an interference between the angles of the individual inks. If you have the correct angles and everything meshes nicely, you're going to see what's called a rosette. If you look in the upper right-hand corner here, I think it's easy to see those little rosettes. That's the sign of all the individual colors being at good angles, and you're not going to get an ugly pattern when it's printed. Here in Illustrator, I'm showing you how those little halftone dots fall on a page. Look, each one is centered in a little grid cell. It's sort of like graph paper. The number of cells along a line is called the line screen. If there are 150 little dots in a row in an inch, that's 150 line per inch halftone. And that's pretty common value for magazines. For a newspaper, it might be lower, coarser, 85 lines per inch, or maybe even 65 lines per inch. The finer the line screen, the finer the detail you can hold on press. Very coarse line screens don't hold detail very well because little bitty details hardly bigger than those halftones themselves. So for something like a coffee table book, it might be above 150 lines per inch. It might even go up to 200 or more. So now you know how little dots of color miraculously render a full color photograph.
So you can see these videos are not very long, but unfortunately I don't really have, I guess let me try this one again. Is that the one I just did? Copy, let's see. I don't really have any other way to show you these, and I think this is so well done that it's worth the effort. Yeah, so I'm not able to show you this one. It's just simply disappeared. All right, so here's the last one. This is basically just an overview of how to be a good print customer. And I think this sums it all up.
During this course, you've picked up some things that are going to make you a better print customer. Always communicate with your printer. There are absolutely no stupid questions, and more information is better than not enough information. Always remember that printing is a physical process. You have to consider both the possibilities and the limitations. I want you to be realistic, and as time goes by, you'll develop a sense of what's possible in print and what's not. Always be curious. If your printer says they have to fix a problem with your file, find out why. Find out how they fixed it, and then you can prevent that problem in the future. If the printer has had to change any of your files to accommodate their printing process, ask for a copy of those corrected files and look at them and see what they did. And maybe you can have a head start with the next job you submit to them. Always be available for questions during the life of the print job, and keep in mind that the more you know, the better print customer you are. After all, you want your printer to be glad to see you come through the door.
That's it. That's it. So, like I say, I'm sorry. In a way, I'm sorry I had to put you through that right now, but the bottom line is every one of those videos, I think, are absolutely relevant to where we are in our production class. This is the final week, and all of these things, in my opinion, relate, all the topics that we looked at in these videos relate to this area, the final week, when we are finalizing, when we are putting together our print for final production. As a designer, your job isn't going to just be to design something and be done with it. More than likely, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be designing things, and you're going to be called upon to produce these things. And you need to know how to do it. There are two areas that you'll probably be doing most of your main production in, and that would be the web and print. And you need to understand that when you're working, especially with print, you're going to be working with different printers, and different printers have different systems. I mean, not every printer is printing and operating the exact same way. So it's a good idea, especially after you've seen how much she stressed it, to have communication with your printer to find out information that you're going to use when it's time for you to actually produce your stuff. You're not expected to just know this stuff off the top of your head. And just like I told you at the very beginning of the process of creating the trifold brochure, when you're creating something like a trifold brochure, ask your printer if they have a template for you. I mean, I supplied a template for you. I wanted you to use it because I wanted you to really understand that I meant it when I said, ask your printer when you're producing a thing. I don't care if it's a newsletter. I don't care if it's a 8-page booklet. I don't care if it's a Well, I mean, you don't have to do it with a business card because InDesign has a business card, letterhead, and envelope, so you don't really have to worry about something like that. But any kind of a form, more than likely, these printers have done it before, and they will have a template for you, and you should use the template. Just like some of these printers will have a different kind of workflow, and when you create a document such as a PDF, they might even be able to supply you with the settings that they would like you to use. And that one video, if you go back and look at it again, shows you exactly how to use those settings. Now, in our particular case, we don't have settings. I'm not going to create settings for you. I'm going to demonstrate how I would like you to set the settings up, and I'll explain why I'm doing what I'm doing when we get to it. And basically, that's it. I mean, I'm going to let me go back up here to my. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, so your final assignment, print ready files. Number one, revise your project. Kayak folder, implementing all instructor feedback. If you have not submitted anything, you need to get something to me, and you need to get it to me quick, because if I am not able to give you some feedback, then part one you're going to basically fail it, because I'm not going to be able to give you credit for something that I wasn't able to do. Your final trifold will be submitted as a packaged print-ready job with a PDF file. So you're going to submit two things to me, and I'll demonstrate it exactly how I want it done tonight. So you're going to actually see me do this. I'll go through the process, and I'll explain the whole thing to you so that it's crystal clear as to what you are going to be doing and how you're going to be approaching it. But remember part one, revising of your project. It is not enough that you self-critique. I do believe it's important for you to put it in front of me and give me the opportunity to critique it. So if you have, I would very specifically ask you to consider my instructions and try to deal with them. If you do not know how to deal with them, or if there's questions about what I'm telling you, come and see me in Blackboard Collaborate over the next couple of days, and I'll be happy to work with you on it. You can also give me a phone call. I know you've seen my phone number. You know where to find it. Contact me directly if you want. I'm more than happy to talk to you and help you. And if you want to at least send me an email, let me know that you're working on it, give me an idea when it's submitted, great. And as a matter of fact, if you're going to be submitting it sort of late, it would be a good idea to let me know that, number one. And number two, it's a good idea to notify me when you submit it so that I can go in and give you this critique. Hopefully you'll be able to accomplish this whole thing by the end of the day, Saturday, right here. Due Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. And guess what? After that time, I am not going to be able to give you any kind of an extension. Absolutely not. It's done. So I really want to stress this. Now, the final thing I want to talk about here before I actually get into a little bit of production on this tonight is the second part of this is that you're going to try to go out and get a print bid for each of the following projects. And these are actually fairly simple to do. I'm going to give you your choice. You can do them online. You can contact people online, and you could have them give you quantity or quotes. Or if you have a Kinko's or a Staples or a local print shop close by where you live, you can walk them in. But the bottom line is what you're going to do is you're going to get a quote from a printer for a quantity of 500 two-sided, three-spot colors, black PMS 188 and PMS 7752. So that is the actual business card. And I should add one more thing to that, and that is it should be on coated stock. Coated stock, okay? Letterhead, quantity of 500, one side, three-spot colors, black PMS, and of course those colors. Now, again, the letterhead is your letter. There's going to be probably no bleed on that. I mean, you will possibly have a bleed on this, so you're going to have to tell him that there will be a bleed if you're going to do a bleed on your business card. because he won't know and he won't give you a quote on that. So this will probably not have a bleed on it. The envelope shouldn't have a bleed on it, and that will be a quantity of 500, and that's 3 spot colors. Again, there are the colors. And then, of course, your trifold brochure. And, of course, your trifold brochure will be on a coded text, weight, stock. Okay? So, oops. Coded weight, text weight stock. All right, so there's your second is to get a print bid for each of these. You can go online. It's very easy to look up printing, Google printing, and you'll probably get thousands of these places. Most of them have a phone number, although many of them have a place where you can actually just dial in, you know what I mean, like type in the instructions and hit go, and it'll give you a quote. So you could do it that way, or you could call them and have somebody, one of their representatives, talk to you real quickly and just give them the specifics on the project, and you will get yourself the quotes that you're looking for. Or if you want to, you can print this out, walk into a place like Staples or Kinko's or whatever you have close by you that does printing of that kind, and ask them to give you a quote. So that's the second part of this, is that you're going to get quote for all these particular pieces. That's it for your assignments for the week. Again, feel free to give me a call. I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to start off by going into Adobe Illustrator, and we'll take a look at our logo. This is the logo that we created and used for our business card letterhead and envelope. And if you notice that over here, this is set to a spot color, and this is set to a spot color, and this is set to a spot color. Now, if we were to use this logo, we could modify it in InDesign, but frankly, I think that's a little dangerous. There's always the chance that you will miss doing that. So what I generally like to do is I generally like to take my logo and I like to create versions of my logo. And hold on for 1 second here while I get myself ready with this. I'm going to put a new folder, and I'm going to call this work. So I have a folder called work on my desktop, and I'm going to open it up. I'm going to come back into Illustrator. Okay, so this is called logo, Aqua Logo Start.ai. So I'm going to first start off by going Save As, and I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to find my way into the work right there. And I'm going to change this from Aqua Logo Start to Aqua Logo Process, P-R-C-E-S-S, Process, and hit Save. All right, and I'm just going to take the defaults on this for now, and Aqua Logo Process. So now I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to call this Aqua Logo Pantone. And hit Save. All right, and hit OK. And now it's Aqua Logo Pantone. I'll close this one. File, Open Recent, Aqua Logo Process. I don't want the Pantone because tonight we're working on the process. Aqua Logo Process, and I open it. And don't worry about the color profile. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with me. All right, so here we have our logo. And right now, as I explained to you a minute ago, this logo is still set up for spot color. So what I want to do here is I want to come in and I want to change these colors from spot color to process color. So what I can do is I can select these both, and then I can double click on this, and I can just, the color mode is already set to CMYK. All I really have to do here is change this from spot color to process color and hit OK. And now that is no longer a spot color. It is a process color. You can tell it's no longer a spot color because the little dot that you see right there in that color is missing, and that makes it a process color. Double click on it, process color. It's important that you do this, and I'll tell you why. If you go back to what she was talking about with CMYK printing, you got 4 plates. You got the cyan, magenta, the yellow, the black, 4 plates. If you use spot colors, you will have to print every color that you use as a spot color on its own separate plate. So now all of a sudden, instead of having a 4-color process job, you have a 4-color process job plus 2 spot colors, which means 2 more make readies and 2 more plates. And that's going to cost you a lot more money. And more than likely, your customer isn't going to be ready to do that. They're not going to be wanting to do that. So you really need to know what you're doing, and you need to be aware of this. So you should actually make a process logo and a spot color logo. So I'm going to click on this, double click on this, change it from spot to process color, and hit OK. And now that is a process color. Both of these are process colors. So when you actually go to make your trifold brochure, this is the logo that I want you to use. And I'm going to show you how I would save this. There's 2 ways you could save this. I'm going to go save as copy. And this is going to go up in my work folder. And I'm going to remove the word copy. Okay, and I'm just going to call this process, but this is not going to be an AI, it's going to be an EPS, which is encapsulated PostScript, and hit save. And then what I get here is I get different versions. Now, I think I mentioned this to you before, that you have different versions. Right now, I'm in Creative Cloud. I would probably leave it in Creative Cloud unless one of my printers tell me that they're using an older version. Believe it or not, I did have a printer tell me that they were working with CS4. So if I was doing this for him, I would have to back this down to CS4. But I'm not. I'm going to leave it in Creative Cloud. And TIFF 8-bit color is good, and transparent is good. There's no need to embed the fonts because the fonts have been created outlines, and you just need to understand what this is all about. If you're working on a graphic and the graphic has live fonts in it, which this does not, you want to embed those fonts, okay? So everything else is ready to go. I'm going to hit OK. And it writes the EPS format. When I come over here, there it is, Aqua Logo Process EPS. That's the file that you want to use for your logo in your trifold brochure. Okay, let's go back to Illustrator, and I'll show you the other way to go, which is File, Save as Copy, and I'm going to remove the word copy here. Okay, and I'm going to come down and change it from Illustrator.ai to Adobe PDF, and I'm going to hit Save. And there are 2 different types of PDFs that you can make. There's a PDF that gets used within your document, like a piece of art, and then there's a piece that gets sent to your printer. The major difference between the 2 is if it's going to be sent to the printer, you're more than likely going to have marks and bleeds on it. Now, I'm going to click on marks and bleeds, and you can see no marks and bleeds, and I'm going to actually remove that. There are no marks and bleeds. Nothing is selected here. I go back to general. So she was talking about these different presets, and she was saying you used a PDF 2001 1A, PDF X1A. I disagree with that. I think what you're going to want to do with this is you're going to probably want to come in and you're going to probably want to go with press quality. Press quality is the best quality. And I would say go with press quality on this. And again, unless your printer is telling you something specific, you would probably go with press quality. Preserve Illustrator editing capabilities. That's something that's an option for you. What that really means essentially is by having that selected, I can actually bring this thing back into Illustrator and I can kind of edit it as objects, and I can even convert it back into a .ai file. So if you don't mind that that's the case, or if you want it to be that way, then you would leave Preserve Illustrator editing capabilities selected. If you don't want it to be editable, if you want it to be something that just is a visual and the person can't edit it, you would deselect this. Now, as far as optimizing for fast web view, I'm going to deselect that because I'm not going to be looking at it. So this is how I would like to see you set this if you do this. And again, you're not really doing this because you did this already, but I just want to make sure you're absolutely clear on these production things, because this is what it's really all about. That's why we're really here. I am concerned about things like crap, and I am concerned about things like your brochure, how it looks, but I'm very concerned that you learn techniques for production here, because you may not get somebody throwing this stuff at you with such concentration as me. So it's really important that I make sure that you're clear on these things. Save PDF, and if I come into my folder, I now have my Aqua Logo Pantone, my Aqua Logo Process, my Aqua Logo Process EPS, which is the actual file that I will use in my production, or my optional one, which is Aqua Logo Process PDF. And by the way, the process EPS and PDF should look and work virtually the same in your Adobe PDF. There's no major difference in the two of them. Either one of them are good. The only reason you might use one over the other is if your printer specifically tells you to use one over the other. That could happen. If not, probably either one of them would be just fine. As a matter of fact, because Adobe Illustrator and Adobe InDesign and Adobe Photoshop are all made by Adobe, it's very reasonable to think that you could put the Adobe Illustrator process logo into your production, although I generally do not do that. I generally stay away from doing that. I either go with some sort of an EPS file or my PDF file. All right? So that's that. That's all I want to show you on this. I think we're pretty good. So I'm going to actually close this, and I'm going to move on to my InDesign. And in InDesign, what we're going to be looking at tonight is our trifold brochure. So here's my trifold brochure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the process of creating the proper packaged file for this. I'm also going to show you how to create the proper Adobe PDF for this, so that you know exactly how I want you to do it. And I want you to notice right away that, look up here at the top, see where those words folds? They're up there. I used my template. It's absolutely critical that I see you've used my template. I mean, it's part of the assignment. If you look at what it tells you to do, your will be graded based on how well you follow instructions. And I went to the trouble to give you the template, and if you had any problem getting it, I would be more than happy to send it to you. Just make sure that you use it. And I want you to understand that in the case of the template that I'm supplying you to use, not that it's a great template, it's an adequate template. The thinking behind this is that I want you to realize that you don't actually have to create this. You can more than likely get your printer to supply you with it. That's the reason that I'm going to the trouble and having you use it, so that you keep that in mind. When you go to create a project like this, you talk to your printer, you find out if the printer has a template. If he has the template, you get it from your printer and you use it. So you save yourself the trouble. Plus, you also guarantee that your production will be on the money, okay? So there's the first thing that I want to point out. The next thing I want to point out is that I'm going to do the package for this. And again, we did the video, you saw the video, you saw how she did it. I'm going to walk you through the steps on mine. All right, so I'm going to start off by first checking to make sure that my text is good. So I go to the type menu. Wait a minute, I'm going to edit. There we go, edit, and go to spelling, sorry, and check spelling. Okay, so I'm going to open this up. Now, just so that you know, I went out of my way to put a couple of errors in here because I wanted these to come up so that I would actually have a reason to do this. So obviously I spelled excursion wrong. There's excursion. I'm going to change it. All right. I want that, and I'm going to change it. All right. Customers, I spelled customers wrong. So customers, I'm going to select customers, C-U-S-T-O-M-E-R-S, and change that. And now Samu is actually the name of a person, so I'm not going to change that. I'm just going to skip it. And Ridge Mills is the name of a city, a made-up city, but it's the name of a city, so I will skip that. And now I'm onto the inside, and the words are live aboards. There was a word made up by the creative person. I've checked with the creative person. The creative person tells me that live aboards is in fact what he wants, so I will skip that. Adventure, okay, so I've spelled adventure wrong. I'm going to change that and fix it. And then perfect, whoops, look at that. I got another spelling error, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to change that. And Bora Bora, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to skip it. And this is just basically a call out, so I'll skip that. My email is something that I made up for my email, so I'll skip that. And then email.com is a web address that I made up. I skip that. And then, of course, it's coming back to Bora Bora. And again, I think I'm done at this point. Let's see if I am. Yeah, done. Okay, so that's the first thing that I want to do. I want to come in here and I want to check to make sure that all of my, let's go view, fit artboard, and fit page and window. There we go. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that all of your text is good. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to check your images. Now I have here the info folder here, okay? And you go up to the window menu and you go to info right there. And you get the info folder. So what does the info folder do for you? It enables you, I'm going to get the selection tool, it enables you to come in and click on pictures, and you see what it shows you? The type of picture is a JPEG. It gives you the actual pixel per inch, 180, which I think I mentioned to you is a little lower than we want it to be. It should be really, pixel per inch should be at least 300 pixels per inch. However, the images that we were supplied are not the right pixel relationship, so we can't do much about that. But I want to point it out to you that the info palette shows you all this stuff, and you have the ability to come in and check these things. The effective PPI is 257, so it's actually a little bit better. 257 is just a shade under 300, so it isn't terrible, it's just not 300. And the color space is CMYK, so we want this to be CMYK. So we're actually in good shape with that picture. But guess what? There are other pictures. So I want to come over here and I want to click on my turtle and take a look over here. It's a TIFF. The actual pixel per inch is 300. So look at that, gang. This one's 300 pixels per inch, the right pixel resolution. The effective pixel per inch is 767. The color space is RGB. So we have a problem, and that is that picture is in the wrong color mode. So the proper thing for us to do would be to fix this. So there's two ways that we're going to fix this. I'm going to show you one right now, and then I'll show you the other. So I'm going to make sure I got my little turtle selected here. Click on my turtle, get my turtle selected. There we go. And I'm going to come over to my links panel, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to go edit with Adobe Photoshop and give it a minute. And what will happen is Photoshop's going to open up. And I just want you to know that I went out of my way to leave these images in RGB so that I could demonstrate how simple it is to fix this stuff. This is part of the process. So it's going to open up in Photoshop in a second. There's my turtle. There's my RGB. I'm going to go to my image. I'm going to go to mode. I'm going to change it from RGB to CMYK. And I'm just going to accept this profile. If I wanted to change the profile, I'm going to go edit, convert to profile. At this point, I'm not going to do it. What I'm really concerned about now is that you understand that we need these things to be in CMYK, and you should be checking yourself to make sure that you're good with this. So I hit OK, and I'm going to close this and save changes. Yes. And now when I come back into here, you'll see that my turtle TIFF, all right, if I click on my turtle TIFF, and if I go to my info panel, see it's no longer RGB, now it's CMYK, okay? So the truth of the matter is I shouldn't have made that mistake in the first place, but if I didn't make the mistake, I would have no way to show you how I could fix it within the program. So that's part of the process, is to show you how to do things. Now, I know for a fact that when I go to my, let's close the links panel for a second, when I go to my pages, I know when I go into here, I know that there are other pictures in here that are in the wrong color mode. But I'm going to leave them alone for the time being because I want to show you something else about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go first to the File menu, and I'm going to go to Package, and I start the process of packaging. Now, this is, again, really very simple, especially if you set your document up properly. On the left-hand side here, you have the summary panel, which is where I am right now. And I'm going to save that for last because, frankly, I generally use the summary panel. I don't really go through all this stuff, but I want to show you. Here's the fonts. And what this does essentially is it tells you the fonts that are being used in here, and it gives you their status. So you can kind of look at these things and see that they're all okay. So I know for a fact that my fonts are good, so I'm good there. My links and images. Let me click on links and images. So here I see this alert. It's a bright yellow triangle with an exclamation point. So what does it say? It says 8 links have been found. 0 are modified, 0 are missing, 0 are inaccessible, 0 are embedded, and 3 use RGB. So, okay, so I got a problem. I have 3 images that are in the wrong color mode, okay? So what I need to do is I need to figure out, check it out down here. There's a clownfish is a RGB, ocean life is a RGB, and reef is an RGB. So those 3 images right there are in the wrong color mode, okay? So let's go to colors and inks. Cyan, magenta, process yellow, process black. And guess what? There are no spot color inks. So that tells me that the image that I have here, let me go through the rest. Print settings, here are the print settings, and external plugins, I have none. I'm gonna hit cancel for a second. That tells me that that logo right there is the proper 4-color process or Pantone, not Pantone, process color logo. So we'll go back and we'll go to package. And now let me talk to you about the summary panel. So the summary panel says the same thing that all these say, except that it says it in an abbreviated way. It tells you that there are 6 fonts being used. None are missing, none are embedded, none are incomplete, and none are protected. So that's what I'm looking for. Everything's good. Links and images. 8 links are found. None are modified, missing, inaccessible, or embedded. 3 use RGB color space. I got a warning, so I need to fix this. Colors and inks. 4 process colors, no spot inks, color management is on, I'm in good shape, no spot colors. And so basically, I could do one of 2 things. I could click on this and I could package, and then I could go in and I could fix my images, or I could cancel, and I could come back over to my info panel, and I could go to my links, and I could take a look at my images. And actually, what I think I need to do here is go to, I think I actually need to go to my page. Yeah, click on my page and click on my image. And there you go. So you see this one here is in RGB. So what I'm going to do with this is click on it, and I'm going to edit with Photoshop. Where are we at here? There we go. Okay, and again, RGB, image, mode, CMYK, hit OK, and save it, yes, and that one's done. And then I can come in here, and I think Reef is the other one, which is that guy right there. Let's check it out and see. Yep, look at that. Reef is in RGB. So what I think I'm going to do with that is come up here and edit it with, again, see if I can get this thing. The type is in the way, so there we go. And I'm going to edit with, sorry, Photoshop. There we go. All right, and there it is. Image, again, RGB, image, mode, CMYK, and you're about to convert to CMYK. Yep, hit OK. And I just want to point this out to you again. you probably shouldn't do this. You should probably have all your images correctly converted in advance. The real reason that I did this is because I wanted you to see how you could approach checking and correcting mistakes that you might make. It's very important that you know if you miss something, you need to check and verify it, and that's what the packaging does. And if you do spot something that's wrong, it's very easy to go in, identify the things that are incorrect, and fix them. So that's what this is really all about. And close this, so save changes, yes, and that one's done. And I believe that this is the one that I'm looking for, RGB, there it is. Okay, so you see again, I'm gonna right click on it, and I'm going to edit with, where are we at, edit, where are we at, edit with, Photoshop, there we go. And again, RGB, image, mode, CMYK, okay, close it and save it. Yes, really easy, right? And now all of my images are theoretically correct. I'm going to go back in, File, Package, and notice that our links and images no longer have the triangle. The triangle's gone, and the exclamation point, and it's saying here 0, use RGB color space. So essentially, I've gone in and I've identified some potential problems. Why am I doing this? Because I know that this particular printer, hi Scott, how you doing?
Good.
Let me just finish this little piece and then I'll have a conversation with you, okay?
All right.
All right. So basically, the printer is not looking for RGB image. If you watched the video with me earlier, the woman was saying how it was possible that the printer might be interested in RGB or CMYK. I'm assuming in our particular demonstration here that the printer does not want RGB, he wants CMYK. So when we saw these RGB, I gave you the direction as to how to go ahead and modify that. So these are now all good. There's no spot colors for process. There are no links that are bad. The fonts are good. I'm going to hit package. And what now is going to happen very quickly, a folder is going to be created. And inside that folder, this publication is now going to be saved in that folder. And 2 other folders are going to be created along with it. One of the folders will contain all the images, all the linked graphics that go in this project, and the other is going to have all of your fonts. So it's going to grab the fonts, put them in the folder, it's going to grab the images, put it in the folder, and create links to them all within that folder. That's what the package is all about. So that's why when it says here, publication must be saved, that's what it's doing. We hit save, and we get our printing instructions, and I'm calling this trifold. And what really this is all about, this is nothing but an opportunity for you to create some instructions and some information that you're going to send along with this file, so that if the printer who has maybe instructions from you and maybe has your information is not available for a day, and maybe a subordinate is working on this, the subordinate will have some information as to how to get in touch with you. So look what I did very briefly. I just put in contact, I put my name. Company, because I'm not working in a particular company, I just put some company because it means a fictitious company, whatever company it might be. Address, I put the address, and the address is the least important of all the things in here. Obviously, the phone number is good, fax number is okay, but the phone number is really good. The email is very good because obviously today everybody emails, today everybody phones. And then of course instructions, I just wrote some instructions. You would be more precise, and those instructions would be anything at all that you would want to tell this printer about this job, just to make sure that you are covering all of your bases, okay? So I'm going to hit continue, and what is going to happen now is I'm going to go into my tonight, or I think it's the work folder. Yeah, the work folder, and let me just show you what's going to happen here. We're going to create a new folder in here, and right here it says copy fonts, copy link graphics, and update graphic links and package. So the package is going to be a folder. There's going to be a file created, a folder with the copied graphics, and a folder with the fonts. All right. And it gives you high quality print as the settings. Notice down here, the folder's name is Scuba Blue Final. I'm going to actually change that. Let's just call it Scuba. Yeah, let's just call it Scuba Blue Trifold. Trifold. That's even a little bit better. So Scuba Blue Trifold. Let me hit package. And the final thing that comes up is this little warning. I generally leave this warning because I teach this class often, and I like to explain things to people. So what I'm explaining here with this is that basically when you have fonts, you don't own those fonts. Those fonts are being loaned to you. Whatever fonts are on your computer don't really belong to you. They're usually restricted. Their uses are restricted. You're not supposed to pass them around from place to place. And the printer who gets these fonts copied into this package has the right to use those fonts within your document only. So what this basically is telling you that. That's all it really is. And once you know that, you don't actually have to keep this. I could very easily come over here and click Don't Show Again. But as I told you, I leave it here so that I can explain why it comes up and what it really means. What do you think, Scott? Does it make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just hit OK on that. And now it's packaging. So you see it take a minute and it'll package the whole thing up for you. Give me a second. Let it do it. Let it do its thing here. All right. And then if I come over here, I can show you the package. So there is the folder. This is your packaged document. And if I open it, you have document fonts. And there are your document fonts. These are the fonts that are being utilized in your piece. So the printer, if he doesn't have those fonts, and just so that you know, chances are the printer's got these fonts. The printer, you'd be amazed at the fonts that printers have. I mean, one of the things that they do is they see to it that they have every font that's out there. Because the bottom line for any good printer is they just want to bill a job. They want to print a job and bill a job. They don't want headaches. So, purchasing fonts is an expense, but it's a justifiable expense that they do over time. So more than likely they have most, if not all, these fonts. Am I dead certain of that? I'm not. But the bottom line is this is what this is doing. It's packaging these fonts. It gives access to the printer of these fonts, which he can then upload them to his computer. And by having them on his computer, when he opens your document, they will migrate into your document and your document will come up correct. So that makes sense, right, Scott?
Probably a write-off for him too.
It is absolutely a write-off. It's no doubt about it. It's an expense that he definitely uses, and it is just a smart move for someone like him to have all those fonts, because again, he'll open up the document and he'll be able to just pop it on very quickly and get rolling with it. So that's what's in your document part of the package. The links, here are your links. And as you can see, they are, here's my Aqua logo. That is the EPS. I use the EPS version of this. And when I checked it, I know that this is correct. This is not a spot color. This is a process color logo. So I know that's good because I checked it. And these here are my images. And I think, Scott, you came in, did you see me actually go in and correct one of these things in
week 3, yeah.
Okay, but did you see me do it tonight or you came in after that?
I came in after that.
All right. Well, anyway, what I was demonstrating was that you can use 2 folders to do that. I'll show you in a second how to do that. Anyway, these are all corrected because I corrected them. And again, why were they incorrect to begin with? Only because I wanted to demonstrate to you. That's really the only reason. Okay? And then go back to Scuba Blue. And what I have here is my InDesign. And it actually even gives me a final PDF. I get a final PDF in here. I'm curious to see what that's going to look like. So let me double click on that and open this up. And look at that. It's actually a correct Adobe PDF. Look, it's got all the correct marks on it. Look at that. Amazing. And there is a correct PDF. So it actually created for me that as well. So I really have everything. Oh, and this little guy right down here, see where it says trifold and it says file? You saw me make those little notes? That's what that is. That's that little document of notes. So that's what a package is. Here, I'll go back to work. There's your packaged folder. All right, now. So you're going to do that. Scott, let me ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. Were you the one that was having trouble with your trifold submission?
No, I just had trouble completing it.
Okay.
I came up with a whole bunch of things this weekend, and just I'm working on. I actually should have that submitted here within the hour.
Okay. Yeah, because part of the assignment, I covered this at the beginning of the night. Part of the assignment is that I'm going to go over the thing and I'm going to give you some suggestions as to how to make it better. I do recommend that you watch the recorded video, what you missed, because there's a lot of good stuff on there.
I've watched week 3 probably 6-7 times already.
Has it helped you?
Yeah, absolutely. I watch it as I'm doing, my work. So I'll back it up to a spot where I'm actually doing stuff and just to kind of, have the right process and do things easily, not hard.
Good. Okay. Yeah, like I say, my major goal with this is to try to give you production techniques. I feel that I'm successful if after you leave this course, you know production things that you didn't know before. As far as design and all that is concerned, it's always important. Being a good designer is always important. But what I'm really concerned about is that when I look at the work that you submit to me, as a printer, if I'm thinking as a printer, I can print this. I can actually produce this. And that's really what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
so,
it was important. I like having the recorded session. I remembered that, I needed to adjust the pictures that we're using, that they were not given to us correctly. They were too small. And the resolution on them was 200, not 300 DPI.
Yeah.
And, so I was just changing it to 300. And then I remembered, wait, there was something in your, so I backed it up and I found the spot where you're like, well, you can't really do that without them getting fuzzy and distorted.
Yeah, well, the problem is that you were not given images that were the proper size for you to make the modifications.
Yeah, no, but see, having the recorded session allowed me to be able to, remember that and actually go back and find that information and do it correctly.
Well, what's really important about that is for the future, whenever you get a project, one of the first things that you do is you check your images to make sure that the image that you've been given has the capacity to develop the proper pixel resolution. So if you're going to be printing something off of a high quality, in a high quality environment like that, you have to have the ability to get your image up in the proper size to 300 pixels per inch. Now, the images that we're using in this particular project, we can't do that with. So it's one thing to be able to produce this thing and make it look reasonable on screen like this, but you would not really be able to print it properly because the resolution wouldn't be quite good enough. The other thing, though, that I want you to understand is you can change an image which is RGB to CMYK. So even though you can't get the proper resolution, I still wanted you to make sure that you converted it to CMYK because it's a two-step process. It isn't just a matter of getting the pixel resolution and size correct. You also have to have the right color mode. And it's the same thing with the logo. I don't want you to just take a logo that's a spot color logo and throw it in this brochure because that's not correct. And if you do that, what's going to happen is the printer's going to call you and tell you to fix it. Or worse, he's going to take the thing and make it a 6-color job because those 2 colors, the spot colors, will be on their own make ready and they will be their own plates. And that's going to cost you extra. And whoever you're working for will probably flip out because they don't expect that extra cost. It goes beyond the scope of things. So that's really what I'm all about in this course, making sure that you guys realize that these things are critical things. It's going to cost you money at some point, and you want to make sure that you don't run into problems.
Right.
Any questions about anything? Any questions you want to hit me with?
Not coming to mind right at the moment.
Okay. All right, so just keep in mind that, I'm looking for correctitude last week. I don't need you to package last week's work. I just need a nice PDF that's correct with the markings and whatnot, which I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna create that PDF again for you. just to make sure that you are clear how to do it. And that's all I'm looking for, the PDF with the correct printer's marks. We'll go over that in a second. What I do want you to do, though, is make sure that you have the proper margins on things. And I've had a number of students really confused over the concept of margins. Like, for instance, this is a margin here, that's a margin here. But you see that line right there?
Mm-hmm.
That line represents where the page is going to fold. If I were to show you this, it has dashes. It's not like that. And this is going to fold here. And I can't tell you how many times I have students that bring me text that bumps into or crosses over the folds. And that is absolutely a no-no. You simply don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to give some breathing space. You want to stay away from these fold areas. See how I got a nice chunk of space there?
Yeah.
See how I got a nice chunk of space there?
Yep.
Why? Because I have a fold there, and I don't want my text butting up against it. I want it to have some breathing space. Is it okay that a photo folds? Yeah, photo's fine. How about a big title like this? Yeah, it's okay that it does that. But text like this, no. And as a matter of fact, what you really want is you want nice, neat widths of text. You don't want big, wide widths of text. And you certainly don't want your text to cross over 2 panels. This is a 3-panel job, and you want to make sure that the 3 panels are cleanly defined and that your panel has some copy on 1, on 2, and on 3. And then, of course, you have a layout.
So I've got a question. Looking at your PDF right here, you've got the image in the background of the scuba diver.
Yeah.
Is that like your master B? Is that like a master B to
I didn't use anything on my masters. Look, there's nothing on I didn't use masters on this.
Okay.
I did not use masters on this. The reason I didn't use masters on this,
you would try and do that. That would be something.
No, the reason I don't do that, and the reason I don't use masters on a piece like this, is because there are very few items that require a master. I mean, okay, I could conceivably see this blue here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, since that blue goes from panel to panel, that could be put on the master. I could put that on master A.
And you did that last week, or
right.
On week 3.
Right. Because one of the things that I was responsible to do is to make you work with masters a little bit. So what I was trying to do is I was trying to give you some idea of how you might approach a master. So in the case of this panel, this would be, say, master A. And then when I go to this one, you're correct. That picture in the background could be on a master B. I'd create a new master and I'd put that on master B.
Okay.
And then, of course, this way, by applying master A to here, I end up with the blue panels on the inset and on the back. And that picture by master B, I'd end up having that background looking like that.
I have another question for you too. On a trifold, would you be folding it in on itself, or would you be folding it more into like a Z shape? Which panel would be the back panel
here's the outside. Here's the outside. The middle panel is the back.
Okay.
This is the front.
Okay,
that's
gotcha.
what's known as the inset. So what happens is it's not a Z fold, although guess what? There are Z folds. You can create a Z fold, a reverse fold.
That's what I was conceiving at first.
I don't want you to do that, but there are actually all kinds of tricky little folds that you can make. I used to enjoy making brochures, and I would make them all kinds of different weird folds, and they look great that way. But this is just a very basic trifold.
Yeah, it wasn't clear what panel was the back set panel, because that would make a difference. The front
panel. I'm on the first.
I got the front panel.
Yeah,
obviously,
that's the first page.
But in the fold, I mean, you have an insert, you have a back and a front. So I was thinking that on the back there would be the actual back panel.
That's the back.
So it would fold it into a Z shape.
No. This would fold over, and this would fold over. It folds in the same direction. It's not a reverse fold.
Right. It folds in on itself.
Why this works is because this panel over here and this panel over here are both the same size, and they are both a tad larger than this panel here. This is the inset panel. This panel folds in. It's a tiny bit smaller So it folds in. So when you look at this all folded up, you see this is the front, that's the back. When you open it like a book, the first thing you see is this guy right there. And when you fold that open, you then are
looking at the
that view right there with the whole thing opened up. And it's almost just like looking at an 8.5 by 11 on its side.
Gotcha. Would you label it as such? Like, would you label the in the margins? Would you write like, you know, front and back and
You could if you want. I don't think it's all that necessary because you basically are working on and again, if you listen to my discussion on this, you probably want to talk to your printer about maybe having the printer give you a template. So
right.
if you're working,
the printer would cut and fold it all, huh?
Yeah, and if the printer gives you the template, then the printer assumes that you're going to follow the course of that template based on what he does normally, right?
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, so in other words, he already knows that template that he's given you folds a certain way, and and he would even probably discuss with you where he wants certain panels to be if you have, but I think by that point you probably would be clear on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I kind of wasn't, and so I have designed mine to where it's folded into a Z shape.
Yeah.
And
so you just got a couple of all you're going to have to do to fix it, Scott, is modify a couple of your panels.
Yeah. No, it's not going to be difficult.
It doesn't sound like a tragedy. It just sounds like a modification here and a modification there, and you'd probably be back good.
Right. Yeah. No, it's fine. I'm not worried about that. It's just I just actually just like the thought about it when I'm looking at your PDF. I'm thinking, that doesn't look like mine.
Hey, I mean, listen, I've said this many times, and I know I've said it in my emails. Feel free to give me a call if you ever have a question. Call me. I will answer the phone, and I'm more than happy to help you. So, need any questions answered, give me a call, and I would be more than happy to. Matter of fact, I have even gone into the room that we're in right now. I've even met privately with students in the room and have gone over things with them that way. Plus, I also am in Blackboard Collaborate, and I think I've given you my hours that I'm in there this week. And any student, including you, feel like you would like to come in and spend a little time with me to have me help you, feel free to stop by. I'm more than happy to help you.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. The other thing I want to point out to you that I got you in the classroom now is this concept of creating a bid for these particular pieces. So essentially, what I've suggested is that and again, I don't know where you live. Do you have Kinko's or Staples or Alpha Graphics by you?
Yeah, Kinko's, I believe.
All right. Well, what I would recommend that you do if they're local and you can get to them, I would walk into any one of those that you have, and what you're going to ask is for them to give you a quote, a print quote for a business card. Quantity 500, 2 sides, 3 spot colors, and those are the spot colors. So you want to know what it would cost to make 500 business cards, standard business card, printed 2 sides with 3 spot colors, and those are the colors.
I think I'll go to a private printer. There's a couple private printers.
Yeah, you could do that too. You could do that too. Absolutely. If you don't have access to that, obviously you can do this online as well. And I mentioned that earlier. But letterheads, the same thing. Quantity of 500 letterheads, 1-sided, 3 colors, 3 spot colors. Remember now, we are not doing Pantone. I'm sorry, not Pantone. We're not doing process on these. We're doing spot colors or process. Pantone colors. And then envelopes, the same thing, 500, 3 colors, and there it is. And then the trifold brochure, which is what we're working on, you are also going to ask for a quantity, because they're never going to do a quantity of 500, but they will do a quantity of 3,000. And this is 8.5 by 11, 2-sided, obviously, and CMYK, which is process, coded, and I gave you a text stock weight, coded text stock weight. So you need to get me quotes on those pieces. That's your other part of your assignment. So what do you think? Is that difficult? You understand how to handle that?
Oh, yeah. That's easy to do.
All right, good. All right, so that's it. That's really what you have to worry about tonight. I just want to make sure that I at least heard one of my students say it makes sense to them.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah.
All right.
getting quotes is easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a half hour, and what I'm going to do is going to take me 20 minutes, so you'll probably be able to get out of here a little early tonight. The last thing that I want to do is I want to one time more walk through the process of creating a PDF. Now, I just want to point out to you that I went through the process of checking my photos. So I just want to show you very quickly how to do this, although you'll find this in the lesson later. You see how I selected my turtle? You
Yep.
can tell he's selected because of the brown line.
Yep.
Okay. If I come over here, I'm going to go to the window menu, and I'm going to go to Info. Yeah, and I open up the Info palette. And what's really great about the Info palette, and again, I went over this earlier, so when you review this, you'll see. But it shows me the type of image. It's a TIFF in this case. And it shows that the actual pixels for this particular image turns out to be 300 pixels, which is good. It's what I want. And the color space is CMYK. Originally, this was in RGB. So now that I see this in RGB, I got to fix it. So what I can do is I can come over to my links panel, and it's the turtle. And if I come up here to the drop-down menu, I can go Edit with Adobe Photoshop. And it brings it up, and see it's in CMYK, but if I wanted to change it, I just go to image mode and change it from RGB to CMYK. Right. But again, I did this earlier, so I'm not going to belabor it. I just thought I'd mention it to you, show you.
That's interesting, because I didn't get that we could do that. I mean, I knew that these programs communicate.
Absolutely.
But I didn't know I had the option actually for the links panel to go in and just have it done.
Yep, I wanted you to see that. And just keep in mind, I said this earlier, I don't really think it's a good idea for you not to properly prepare your artwork to bring into a program like this. I do it deliberately because I have to demonstrate. So if I have everything correct, I got nothing to show. If I have things wrong, I can show those things as being wrong, and I can show you a way to go about correcting them, which makes sense when you're teaching somebody things.
Right. You can either work smart or work hard.
Yeah.
And that's, and this right here. See, I was doing it the hard way, where I, going and checking them all and doing it, before I put them in.
Right.
Being able to build it and then double check your work.
Yeah. Well, so you always double check your work. I mean, you always do this. This is something that you just do. I also did a spell check on this, and I had some deliberate mistakes that I made so that you could see the process. Because I want you to understand, really got to walk through this process and make sure that there's a problem. Because you don't want to spend hours, days working on a beautiful design only to make stupid mistakes. And then you're going to show it to people, and people who maybe will give you work are going to look at this and say, oh my God, this guy's beautiful.
Show me that spell checking.
Yeah, the work is nice, but it's got mistakes, So you really want to make sure. And then the other thing too is, you could end up having to pay or lose your job over creating a piece that isn't properly dealt with. So I just make sure that I mention this because this is printing.
Can you show me the spell checking?
Yeah, basically all you're going to do is you're going to go up to edit, and you're going to go spelling, check spelling.
Cool.
Yeah, and now most of the actual mistakes I made have been fixed, but like for instance, Samu, it turns out that I happen to know Samu is a guy's name, so that I skipped. Ridge Mills, that's a word that I made up. It's supposed to be a town, but I know I made it up, so I can skip that. If it were not, and I wanted to change it, I could click on one of these and see I could change it. But I'm going to skip it because I happen to know that it's a made-up word. Live aboards is something that was written by a writer, and I happen to know that the writer wants that, so I would skip that as well. Okay?
Got it.
Bora Bora, I believe, is correct.
Yep.
Okay. Skip that. And then this is just showing me this call out, which refers to that picture up there. So I'm just going to skip that because it's not technically wrong. This is a fake email, so I can skip that. And then this is email.com. That's fake. I skip that. And I'm on the inside. I'll skip that and hit done. So again, I just do this as a way of making sure that everything is correct. Now, the other thing too is before I actually produce this final PDF, which I'm about to do, a couple of days earlier, I produced a regular PDF which I then send to the person who is the author of this brochure. What I mean by author is that there's probably a writer somewhere who actually generated all this copy for me. I more than likely don't write the copy. So what I would do is I would submit to that guy a copy of my layout showing his copy so that he could check the copy to make sure that the copy is correct. And then after he comes back with edits, I fix the edits, and then I proceed to spell check it again. And if necessary, I send it back for an additional check. And when we finally have the thing tightened down and everything's correct, I will go in and I will create my final PDF, which is what I'm about to do right now.
Gotcha.
All right?
Yeah.
All right, so File, and I'm going to come down. I'm going to go to Export. Now, notice that you have Adobe PDF presets. I can actually come in here right now if I want, and I could choose my preset. So right now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in just to show you how to do this. I'm going to choose Press Quality, and it's going to save this on my desktop. Okay, but I don't want to do this because I want to actually go in and go through the process.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go Export.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to save this to Scuba Blue Trifold. That's where it's going to go. Now, there is one in there right now. It's going to overwrite it. Hit Save. I'm going to overwrite it. Why am I doing that? Only reason I'm doing it is because I want to create it and I want to show you how to go about doing this.
Gotcha.
So when you see the video, she's telling you to use PDF X1A 2001. I don't agree with her. I think she's wrong. In this particular case, I'm going to choose Press Quality. Press Quality being the highest quality. Okay? The pages, I'm going to print all the pages.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need to optimize for fast web view, so I'm going to deselect that. Then the only other thing I have to worry about in our case is the marks and bleeds. And I want to come in here and I want to click all of the printer's marks. And now here's the thing about printer's marks. Believe it or not, every printer will have a different set of requirements for printer's marks. Some printer's marks will not want the crop marks. Some will not want the bleed marks. Some will not want the registration marks. Some will not want the color bars. And some might not want the page information. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that the crop marks he wants, the bleed marks he doesn't want. I'm just doing this for the heck of it for tonight.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, and then of course, you're going to leave these for default unless he tells you to change them. These are just basically some default settings that you don't worry about. And then of course, you have to deal with the bleed and slugs. Now, if you remember, I told you that this is a document that I supplied you with. And you can tell it's mine because my crop marks are funny, and I have the folds up here, right? You've seen this, right? You've seen that document?
Yeah.
Are you working with it?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. I want you to. All right. So I did use document bleed settings. So when I click on this, the document bleed settings are picked up. And they're essentially 0.125 of an inch, which is 1/8 of an inch.
If they were different on your file here, would they show up different when you clicked use document bleeds and settings?
They should show up as whatever you have the settings in the document as.
Gotcha.
Mine are 1.125 IN because that's pretty much what you generally use. You don't always use that. It could be different. They could vary. But most of the time, you're going to find that 125 is pretty much a standard. Now, what's a slug area? I don't know whether you know what a slug area is or not.
That's where all the printer's marks and stuff go, right?
Right. So if you include the slug area, and in my document, I actually did include a slug area, you are going to then include that slug area, and your marks will show up. Now, there are other things that go on in here, but the bottom line is I'm not going to cover any of this stuff right now because it doesn't make much sense for me to cover any of this if you're not working with a printer giving you specific instructions. So the bottom line is what I want you to concern yourself with is over here and choosing the proper setting up here. And the smallest file size is essentially something if you're going to build a website and you want to have a couple of documents up online, that can be viewed on your computer, or you want to download them to your computer. That would be the smallest file size. You intend to not print them, right?
Right.
Okay. High quality print is essentially a printer setting where it's high enough to be printed from, say, a digital photocopier or a color copier.
Okay.
And then press quality is the highest quality. And then these modified ones, build a printer and press ones, these are ones that I created and saved. See down here, you can save a preset.
Right.
Yeah, I spent some time and put some settings in press quality modified and build a printer, and I saved them as presets. So if your printer gives you one, you can bring it in, or you can save this for the printer, and then you can go whenever you go to that printer, select his settings, and it'll automatically come in. Now, this woman will talk to you about these PDF 1A. 3 and 4, 1A, 3, and 4. I'm not going to go over that right now, but they're basically just settings that are kind of like safety settings. She'll explain the whole thing. This woman, the reason I showed those videos at the beginning of the night is because they were so well done, and they were so exactly tied to what we are doing tonight that I thought it would just be perfect for us to look at. And since they are part of the lynda.com, I can't just show them, I can't just put the links in and have you go to them unless you're paying. So I'm paying, so I actually played them for you.
Nice.
Right. So
I'll watch that.
If you don't have any questions about this, all right, there's your marks and bleeds, there's your general. You all good? You understand? No questions?
No questions.
Okay. Hit export, and then you've basically saved, and here's my work, and there's my Aqua logo process, and I have to open this on I'll just open this again so that you can see what it looks like. It's going to look exactly like the one that was created. Oops, that's not the right one, is it? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. That's why. Yeah, let me close that. I'll close. Yeah, here we go. Scuba Blue. There we go. Okay. Yeah, and see, essentially you got your slug area, you got your crop marks, you've got your registration marks, you got your grayscale and your color bars, and you got some page information. So assuming that that's what your printer wanted, you've given your printer exactly what he needs to take this job in and separate it and then recompose it onto a press and run the job for you. Now, final thing, click on this and go away. Final thing is we have our Scuba Blue trifold, which has our InDesign document, our links, our document fonts, and our final PDF. So that's what I'm looking to see. I'm looking to see all of this in the folder with your name properly, okay? And then you're going to just come in and you're going to click on this guy and send it to a compressed zip folder and name it the way it instructs you to name it. There's your zip folder. And see how it'll take a minute to compress this because there's a lot of stuff going on in here. There you go. Name it correctly. Send that to me. And that's your final.
Gotcha.
All right? I'm done. You got any final questions for me?
Well, that's the same process I would use to turn in, because I'd still, like I said, I've got week 3 that I'm.
Week 3, you don't have to go to all this. All you have to do in week 3 is send me the PDF. I just need a PDF for week 3.
I thought week 3 it was like you needed it to be packaged and.
No, this is the week that I'm really concerned about the package. I want to see a proper PDF in week 3, and I want to make sure that I can verify that you've done all the printing stuff correctly.
Gotcha.
And I want to be able to make sure that I can give you some critique so that maybe you've got 1 or 2 things that you can modify if necessary.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Well, actually, then that will be then I won't be so I guess anal retentive on having it like perfect.
That's fine.
I'll just get that into you so you can make some corrections there.
We got another student in here. Hey, hi, how you doing? Can you say your first name?
It's Janida.
Janida. Hi, Janida. How you doing?
Hey, Janida.
I'm doing all right.
How's things going with the class? You okay?
Yeah, like I said before, for my emails, yes, I'm doing okay, I guess.
Okay, so you're all right. You're in good enough shape here. You got your work. Are you up to date?
Yeah. Well, yeah, almost about today, up until today.
Okay.
So
just keep in mind that this final, one of the important things with the final is that week 3. I don't know whether you've submitted or not. There are a number of students who have not submitted week 3. I need to take a look at your week 3 PDF so that I can critique it somewhat and give you a couple of little changes to make that might help make it look a little bit better. And you need to incorporate those changes into your final. I think I did a pretty good job of covering everything that you're going to have to do this week through the course of the recording tonight. I know that you weren't here to see it all, but you'll be able to go in and take a look at the recording, and it should be, I think, pretty clear.
Yes, the recordings are excellent. I mean, they've helped me catch up. So
yeah, I mean, the bottom line is there's a very specific thing going on here that I'm concerned about, and that's what's about process and what's about production. I mean, as far as design goes, yeah, I'm a designer. I want you to design well, but what I'm really concerned about is that I teach you certain things that you might not find other instructors focusing on. And that's the production and the use of color in the proper way. So that's really what I'm concerned about, and I'm hoping that you walk away with enough knowledge of that you'll be able to, wow people.
Yes, thank you.
How many times have you watched week 3, Janita?
I'm still watching.
You still watching it?
back and forth, constantly. Because I mean,
as
there's
well.
things on there that actually,
Is it hard? Are you having a rough time with this stuff?
No, it's just time frame.
Oh, okay.
It actually helps with going back. It's just the little things, like I remember it. Then when it's time to save, then I'm like, wait a second, I want to make sure I got every little thing right. So I go back and watch it.
You're saying exactly just what I said too.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem with the videos is that they run for close to 2 hours. And unfortunately, it's hard. I guess I could maybe go in and break them up, but it could be even more of a problem by doing that.
Oh no, I mean, they're fine. It's just that the little steps, like when we record, when we're I mean, I think I remember the little steps when you say print PDFs or the was it EPS.
Yeah.
And actually, I got that down pat, which one's first and all that stuff. But it's just that the little check marks that when we go into marks and bleeds, I want to make sure I got every box right.
It's a funny thing. I know it might sound a little repetitious, but I tend to be repetitious about things. I tend to do things more than once. I tend to, go over steps more than once. Like tonight, for instance, I went over steps that I went over last week. And I don't do that. I do that because I want to make sure that you guys get a pretty good picture of these steps, because those are the central theme. They follow the central theme of this particular course, which is production,
I don't think you need to break up your video. I think when you watch it as many times as I do, I get to know where spots are, and I can just kind of scan where I need to know, and so it's fine.
Okay.
No need for
I
the
think, and
extra
also
work.
you give up the heads up too of what's coming up, and make sure it's like, I think I heard that right, and then I go back, I'm like, yeah, I did. So I
There'd
want to
probably be more work on my part if you had different videos, and I'd be like, oh crap, I got to go to that other one, or if it's better if I can just scan forward to go like, oh no, I passed it, and back it up to where I need to be. And
well, okay, as long as it's working, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, they're great.
Okay, so I guess that's it. Unless you guys have any particular questions, have you guys been getting my emails? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I have one question though.
Absolutely, at the time.
The trifold. Are we going back to those the original spot colors? I know I was going through it, trying to do the.
You could actually, if you want, you could actually go back to your original logo. And you could check to make sure that the colors are processed. That's the important thing. And again, if you watch this video at the beginning of this, I start off with the logo, which as a matter of fact, if you look over here, I got a logo in Pantone, I got a logo in process. So what I did was I started with the logo in Pantone color, and I converted and created a logo process color version. And then I saved it as an EPS and a PDF. That's just to show you how you would approach something like this. So just to make sure that you're absolutely certain of this, you must have your logo in not spot, but in process. because
Okay.
process is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, 4 colors. And if you have it in spot color, that means that those 2 spot colors would have to be on their own unique plate. And that would go from 4 plates to 6 plates. Additional costs, and it would not be worth the process unless the customer specifically wants to do that, which most of the time they don't.
And we go ahead and let them know from the upfront too. If they're deciding spot color and process color,
Yeah,
make
you
sure.
talk to your printer about that. You wouldn't want to just send it to him cold, because he would
Correct.
get back in touch with you and say that. But the right thing to do in a case like this is to make sure that whenever you're using colors, you're using the right colors. That goes for pictures too. I mean, you'll see in my demonstration that I have a number of photos in my brochure that are RGB instead of CMYK, and I deliberately put them in so I could show you how to go in and
change that.
and change them and fix them. You know, again, I'm showing you techniques that relate to programs like Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign. Those are the 3 most common programs that will work with one another to create a brochure such as this. So, you know, I'm trying to work through the process of showing you how these 3 really great programs interact with one another in a very efficient way so that you have a great production kind of environment.
What threw me off last week was when you're doing the outline of the logo,
Yeah.
when it wasn't showing color, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? But
Yeah.
when I saved it, then it popped up with the color.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Well, I
I
think
thought
what
I
you're
was-
talking about, is this, where I go to the view menu and I show you outline.
The outline,
Yeah,
correct.
all that is basically taking the color away, and it's showing you the vector path that the fill is in.
Yes.
And if I go back up to the view menu and I hit preview, it takes that line away and it shows you. See, if I sit over top of that O, do you see how the line highlights that
Yes.
blue line?
Yes.
Well, that's nothing more than that outline.
See, and I didn't realize that, but until I just realized when I saved it, it popped up because I was
Yeah.
thinking I was doing something wrong
Yeah.
for some reason. Okay.
Yep. That's all it is. It's no big deal.
Just the view. Okay.
And if you were going to export that as, like, for instance, right here, I'm going to export it as EPS or PDF, it would not export as that outline view. It would export in its proper way. That view is just for you so that you could take a look at the actual vectors that are used to create the shapes.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Are you guys good?
Yes.
All right,
Thank
listen,
you.
like I said, I think I've sent you my schedule. I'm in Blackboard Collaborate a couple of times this week, so if you need any help, feel free to come in and I will help you. I also answer my phone if you need any help, you want to talk to me about something, give me a call.
Okay. Thank
All right.
you.
Yep. All right, you all have a good night. I'm done. Thank you, and good luck with your stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.